Hey everyone, welcome back to Wix Fix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Ryan, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a mega menu inside of Wix Studio. Let's go ahead and get started. So here we have a very simple website, and let's say in the menu, we want to include some of our services, but we want to be able to allow our users to be able to select which service that they want to learn more about. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is click on the menu, press manage menu, and under add item at the bottom, we'll see an option for mega menu. So let's go ahead and click on this. And now it's going to allow us to rename the mega menu element. So we're going to call this one services. Now for the services, I want this to be above our work. So I'm just going to simply drag it above. And when we added the mega menu, you're going to notice that there's this option right here for container. If we click edit, it's going to open up our mega menu here. So I'm going to drag this down a little bit. And what I want to do for design is add the background color white. We're going to round the corners for the bottom. So 24 pixels and 24 pixels. And then we're going to add a little bit of a shadow here, 10%. And here are the settings that I chose. We did 15, 15, and 5. And we made the color black at 10%. So this is going to be the design of our mega menu container. However, what we're going to do is scroll down to the bottom to position, and we're going to add a little bit of padding. For the left and right hand side, I'm going to add 5%. So we're just going to add 5%. But for the top, we're going to set this to 24 pixels. And then for the bottom, let's set this to like 48 pixels. So now we should have something that looks like this. Now inside of this, what I want to do is on the left-hand side, I want there to be some menu items or services that we offer. And then on the right-hand side, I want there to be a little bit more information for the user to learn more about that service. And I want it to change on hover. So what we're gonna have to do in this tutorial is use something called a multi-state box. And we're gonna have to use a little bit of code to set up some hover animation or hover change for the multi-state box. But to set that up, what we're gonna do is head on over to the add panel. We're going to grab a container and drag it in, and we are going to stretch this. Then we're going to come down to layout, and under CSS grid, we're going to go ahead and press apply, and we're going to split this into two halves, just like that. So now we should have a left and a right hand side, and we're going to add like a 64 pixel gap in the middle. So over here on the left hand side, I want our 3 different service items. And over here on the right, we're going to have our multi-state box. But let's start by setting up our 3 service options. So I'm going to come over here to add. We're going to drag another container out and put it in the left column here. Once it's added, we'll stretch it. And once again, we're going to add another CSS grid. For this one, since we have 3 services, I'm going to add 3 rows. And we're going to add a 24 pixel vertical gap here, just like that. Now, before we proceed, I want to remove the background color from this container, and we'll grab the background container and remove it from this one as well. That way we can start working on the design a little bit more. In this top grid cell, I'm going to add, once again, another container. We can go ahead and stretch it, but then we can come over here to the position tab in the inspector panel, and we can make sure we place it in the correct grid cell. Then we're going to go back up to layout, and what we're going to do is apply a CSS grid. For this one, we are going to choose the 2x2 option, and we are going to add a 12 pixel horizontal gap. Great. Over here on the left top row, what I want to do is add a little icon. So we're going to go to our new media tab, so go to site files, and I'm going to add a little SVG, a little icon. For the size of this, what I want to do is lock the aspect ratio. We're going to set this to like 16 pixels, and we're going to set the responsive behavior from scale proportionately to fixed. Now we're going to drag this into our container over here. Perfect. And we can even center this up so it looks nice. Then we're going to grab the container, and we're going to actually grab this column here. And in the layout tab, we're going to set this to be minimum content. With this container selected, we're going to go up to the add panel, and we're going to add a title. Now this title is a little bit too big. So what I'm going to do is change the theme to a heading 6. And I'm also just going to go ahead and maybe bump this down to like 18 pixels. And I'm going to drag this into the top grid cell. For this, I'm going to align it to the left, make sure it's centered, and I'm going to set the responsive behavior from scale proportionately to hug. For this text, I'm going to change this to say website design. Perfect. And then in the bottom grid cell here, I'm going to add a paragraph. Now for this paragraph, we're going to make sure it's in the correct grid cell. We're going to align it to the left. We're going to set the width to be 100%. And we're also just going to change the font size to 14 pixels, and we'll send it to the top. Now I'm just going to change out the paragraph text real quick. The next thing I want to do is grab this container. We're going to come down to position, go down to the docking margin and padding, and we're going to add some padding. So we're going to click on that inner circle to reveal the padding settings, and we're going to add 24 pixels of padding on all sides. Perfect. Then we're going to go up to the design settings, and we're going to remove the background color. We're going to add a 1 pixel border, but we're going to set the opacity to 20%. And then for the corners, I always like rounded edges, so I'm going to set these to 24. And I'm going to turn off these scale properties. So this should be the design of our box here. But what I want to do now is actually grab the container, and we're going to add a simple animation to it. So we're going to come over to the inspector panel and switch on over to animation and effects. We're going to drop down the toggle option and press add. Now we can use a preset if you just want to use one of these. However, we're going to go ahead and create a custom animation, and we'll press create animation here. For this, what I want to do is change the background color to our blue action color. I'm going to lower the opacity to like 10%. And then for the border, I'm going to make this our blue, and we'll make this 100%. And I'm going to press done. Great. Now, when you exit the animation, it's going to exit the menu. So we're just going to select manage menu and press edit on the container. And now that we have this done, what I'm going to do is just copy it, and I'm going to paste it down here. We can go ahead and stretch it, but then if we switch back over to the design tab, we'll be able to make sure it's in the correct grid cell. And then let's do it one more time. So we're going to grab the left container here, press paste, and once again, we're going to stretch. Now let's go ahead and change out the content really quickly. Once we are done with that, we are ready to move on to the next step. Over here on the right-hand side, we're going to want to add a multi-state box. Now, in order to access the multi-state box, we need to enable coding. So what we're going to do is head on over to the left-hand sidebar where it says code, and we're going to say start coding. Once we do that, we can now move up to the add panel. We're going to go to layout tools, and we'll have an option for multi-state box. I'm going to hover over this and add it to our page. Once it's added, I'm going to go ahead and stretch it, and I'm going to use the position area here in the inspector panel to move it over to the right-hand side. And the last thing I kind of want to do is actually grab the main container here. I want to set this left column to maybe be like 0.65. I think that looks a little bit better. And I'm going to adjust this text a little bit. That way it's only 2 lines per service for the paragraph text. I think that looks a little bit better. And then what I want to do is with this container selected, I'm going to remove the background color. So all I want in here is an image with a nice little gradient over top of it. And then I'm going to add a little paragraph. What I want to do first is go up to add panel. We'll just click on the image. Once it's added, we're going to go ahead and stretch it, turn off the scale properties. We're going to scroll down to corners, and we're going to round the edges to 24. Perfect. Then I'm going to go to my media, and I have this option called a black fade, and I'm going to add it to the page. I'm going to go ahead and stretch it, and I'm going to go down the corners and set the radius to 24 pixels. But I actually need to come over to the layers panel and reorder this. That way the image of our black fade is on top. And then I'm going to lower the opacity of this to like 75%. The last thing I'm going to add is the paragraph. So I'm going to go to quick add a paragraph. I'm going to set this paragraph to have white text. I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And then using the align tools, I'm going to align it to the left and bottom. And then I'm going to scroll down to the position tab and add 5% margin to the left and bottom. So let's go ahead and open up the layers panel. We're going to grab this image in the background, and we're going to say change image. This is going to be for our web design. So I'm just going to find an image of a website. So we'll just do this one here. Looks great. Then I'm going to grab the multi-state box, press manage states. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and delete it because this is the design that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one 2 more times. Perfect. I'm going to go up to the top one. And what I'm going to do is rename this to web box. Then I'm going to grab the second one, and we're going to call this one SEO box. And we're going to toggle this down and change the image here. And realistically, you're probably going to want to change the text as well. But I'm just going to grab a new image here to make it a little bit more obvious. Then I'm going to grab the third multi-state box here. And I'm going to call this one automation box or auto box. Then I'm going to grab the image here, and we're going to change this to an image of a robot. Perfect. So now we have our multi-state boxes created. Now, before we start coding, I highly recommend that we change all of the multi-state boxes that we can trigger, and we set up the triggers. So for example, under the multi-state box, which is this element right here, the web box is this one. So this is what's going to be triggered when someone hovers over the web design box. Then we have the SEO box, which is what's going to be triggered when someone hovers over this box. And then we have automation box, which is triggered here. So you can see how I named them here. And then I also named the triggers themselves. So we have web trigger, we have SEO trigger, and we have auto trigger. And now it's time to start coding. But it is very important to note that we do not want to add this code to the page code. So right here, we have the page code and we do not want to add it here because since this mega menu is in a header or a global section, then if we add the code to the page code, then the code will only run here on this page and it won't run on any other page. However, if we attach it to the master page code, then it'll work across your entire website. So if you do not see master page JavaScript file here, what we can do is come over to the coding panel. We'll come over to page code and we'll open up the master page JS and you'll see it right here. Now we can open up our layers panel again. And what I want to do is grab the web trigger right here from the layers panel. And you'll notice that it is the one that's being selected because the ID will be selected down here. And what we're going to do is scroll down to the event handlers and you'll see an option for on mouse in. So if I go ahead and click on this, it's going to create a little function here, function name here for us. And I'm going to go ahead and press the little add button. And then in the coding panel right here, it's going to add the function with some comments. Now I always like to delete the comments out just because we don't need it. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab the multi-state box just like that. Then we're going to say change state. And with some parentheses and quotation marks, I want to change this to a specific state, right? So if the web trigger, which is this box, is hovered on, then we want the multi-state box, this over here, to change to which state? We want it to change it to the website design state, which is called webbox1. In this, I'm just going to say webbox1. Now let's grab the SEO trigger box. Again, we're going to go down to the event handlers and we're going to add this to the page. We're going to delete the comments. And what I want to do is actually just grab this line of code right here and we're just going to paste it in. Now you don't want to copy the entire function here because sometimes that doesn't really work when copying and pasting. So create the event handlers manually for every single one, but the code inside of this function, like this one right here, we can copy and paste that. But for this one, it's the SEO trigger. So we want to switch this one to the SEO box. Perfect. And last but not least, we're going to grab the auto trigger, go down to the on mouse in event handler. Add this to the page. As usual, delete the comments. We're going to paste in the line of code for the multi-state box, and we're going to change this to auto box. So then if we go ahead and preview and we hover over services, our mega menu will activate. And if we hover over web design, our web design content will appear. If we hover over SEO, our SEO content will appear. And last but not least, if we hover over automation, our automation content will appear. And that's how you create a really nice custom mega menu inside of Wix Studio. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for more Wix Studio content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I will see you all in the next one.